All right, we got tag teams we're going to talk about.
Yep.
I mean, there's so many.
Me and Amanda Seyfried. Me and Katy Perry.
Oh, man.
I'm Peck.
I'm Chris. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing. Where's something? What makes a great tag team? Obviously, chemistry.
Chemistry. And then there are two schools of thought. Two people that are completely different.
Yeah.
Like a big guy and a little guy. And then two people that are so similar that they mesh well and they're almost twins.
And it's either, talent comes up with the tag team on their own, or the office throws them together and sees what happens.
And they just end up working a couple of matches and it ends up working out.
Yeah. You want to start with the 80s, 70s and 80s?
We'll do it chronologically.
70s and 80s, Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens, Nick Bockwinkel, Ray Stevens with Bobby Heenan as their manager, kind of intertwining, going back and forth. And they'd always feud with like the High Flyers, which was Jim Brunzell, and Greg Gagne from the AWA. So that was kind of...
We had early Rockers when they were feuding with Playboy Buddy Rose.
Oh, yeah.
And, who was his partner?
Doug Summers.
Yeah. We had that way back in the day.
That really helped put over the Rockers. That really established those. I mean, Rose and Summers really helped them.
And you know what the funny thing is? Their first WWF tag team title win isn't even officially recognized because the rope broke. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And they never beat the Hart Foundation.
Wow.
That's right. They only had one or two tag team title reigns. Oh, didn't they win it back, though, for a very brief period? Michaels and
They might have. There were so many different title changes during that time.
No. I mean, whenever they... You remember when they brought them back? And didn't they beat La Resistance for the tag belt?
Oh, yeah, I think they did.
And they were champion for like 2 weeks before Jannetty got suspended or something?
Yeah, before he screwed it up.
Yeah.
Here's a tag team. The original Briscoes.
Yeah.
They were, and the Funks. Those two, families were just, a big part of the NWA.
Yeah,
I mean, they really helped that era.
I mean, of course, you had the Legion of Doom, which was all the way from the 80s to LOD 2000, which was just dreadful.
I know. I mean, that was just a dominant team. There is just no one that, well, except the Blade Runners, but that was Stinging,
and even
Warrior.
So, the Blade Runners were highly derivative of the Legion of Doom with the face paint and the shoulder pads. Nobody had that look.
No. And the thing that, everything kind of spawns from the Road Warriors.
The promotion they were in, they really just...
Oh, my God. They destroyed everybody.
They were the main guys.
The AWA, NWA.
They had to lose. They were just like, no.
I think they've won more tag team belts than any other tag team that ever lived.
Oh, no doubt. Even more than the Dudleys.
Yeah, I mean, they're just...
Because they won in Japan, they won in the United States, they won in every Fed they were ever in.
Yeah, I mean, and how could they not win? Look at those guys. They were just huge, and they were powerful, and they could go. And see, here's what kind of makes me kind of...
They were one of the most, I mean, later in the 90s when theme music became important, they were memorable. When everybody remembers the start of that, what a rush, Well,
see, people say, there's rip-offs of them, like Sting and Demolition and all that, but you know what?
Demolition was its own separate thing.
It was. What, no one else can have face paint? I'm sorry, but, it's wrestling. Everybody should, do what they want to do. So, is Demolition a rip-off? I don't think so. It was to be different. They were, they had their own gear, but, can other tag teams have their own... separate attire like that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say Demolition was a ripoff. No, I mean, I'd say they were inspired by it and they built upon, but I wouldn't say that they were just a blatant carbon copy.
No, I mean, every organization has a tag team that looks a certain way, so that was their version. I mean, it's okay.
Although, you know what, though? I don't think WWE, during the same time period, they didn't have an AMW and they didn't have a Naturals. I mean, you could say maybe Edge and Christian, but...
What, in the 80s?
No, I mean, I'm just saying later on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Demolition, though, they were a good, solid team.
They really were. I mean, I don't know offhand how many times they were tag team champions, but I mean, it was a good bit.
I think twice, I don't know.
They held it for a long time. They feuded with Andre and Haku and the Rockers and everybody.
Another team I like, too, that they brought in to feud with them was the Powers of Pain, which is the Warlord and the Barbarian. Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been a neat four-way. Demolition against Powers of Pain, against Legion of Doom, against the Blade Runners. I would have liked to see that whole power struggle thing. That would have been sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think... I do think when the Legion of Doom did finally come to WWE, they missed the mark. Because the Powers of Pain had a WrestleMania title match against Demolition. And then when Legion of Doom showed up, they just kind of...
the Legion of Doom were only... I think they were only WWF Tag Team Champions, I want to say twice or once.
Yeah, it wasn't much.
They didn't have that. I mean, they had a long reign, but they lost to Kane and Austin, Michaels and Austin or something, or they tried to take the belts from them and they weren't successful. No, they lost to them.
I think they won the belts once in '91, and I don't know how long they carried it for. I think they won it again in '92.
And then they won it in
Then-
'97.
Yeah,
They
so
were
maybe
only
3
WWF
times.
champs, maybe 3 times.
And it's a shame the way their whole career kind of ended in WWF. I mean,
Tragedy, yeah. And
They claim the reason why they left WCW '96 was because they wanted to get that. The only way they could get that feel was with WWF, but they should have stuck around because the NWO was just
and
around
WWF
the corner.
got bigger,
Yeah,
whenever they went there.
I think they should have stayed in WCW though because the NWO is just right around the
And
corner.
they could have feuded right with the NWO.
Oh my God!
Because they could have feuded them and Hall and Nash, and it would have been perfect. We forgot them.
Yeah, Hall and
We're going
Nash.
to talk about the '90s now.
Well, I mean, we'll go back to the '80s. Yeah, we'll kind of go it.
For a while.
We'll go in and out. The High Flyers were an AWA tag team. It was Jim Brunzone and Greg Gagne. They were good. They were like almost a version of the Rockers, like back in the '70s. But
Like their version.
Yeah.
Their less rock and roll version.
yeah, they're not bad.
The whole thing about the Rockers' first song they ever came out to, their first ever entrance music, "Living After Midnight" by Judas Priest.
I like that song.
I did too.
Run Into the Dawn or whatever.
Bob FM played that.
Did they?
"Living After Midnight." I was like, wow, this is the first time the station's ever played Judas Priest, but I digress.
Play some more, please.
Yeah.
Rock and Roll Express, they were big.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
I mean, them and the Midnight Express would feud in the NWA forever.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, they would just go at it, and they were great. They could feud with anybody.
That was Ricky Morton and
Gibson,
Gibson,
yeah.
yeah.
They could feud with anybody. The Russians, they could feud with. They feud with LOD. They
I
feud
love the
with
Rocker
Horsemen.
Dropper. It was the famouser before the famouser even existed.
Amazing. It's just great, phenomenal team. But I mean, getting into the Horsemen, we're gonna get into the 4 Horsemen. Any combination of them, most of the time, great tag teams.
Except for Mongo.
Oh God! Now people, get mad about Roma. I think Paul Roma was a better wrestler than Steve McMichael was.
Absolutely, no doubt about it. Steve Mongo McMichael was an idiot. He played for the Bears, which, of course, that's 2 strikes for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that he was a terrible wrestler, that's 3 right there.
It's cool as he's a legit tough guy, but he can't wrestle and he didn't get over on the mic, and he was just terrible. Terrible.
He had a black leather jacket and like a Bears jersey. He was just awful.
Paul Roma could run up the ropes like no one's business.
Paul
And
Roma was a very underrated wrestler.
I think he was, and people say he was a job guy, whatever. I don't think he was that bad of a horseman. I think he kind of kept his
If
end of
you're
the
in
deal.
the 4 Horsemen at any point, you're not a bad horseman.
Yeah. Anderson and the Anderson brother or what cousins, where the hell they were, great tag team. Blanchard and Anderson, Flair and Anderson, Arn Anderson. I mean, just Wyndham and Anderson. I mean, Anderson in any team is just amazing.
As bad as their gimmicks were, what were your thoughts on the Godwins?
Yeah, it got over.
As
To a degree.
wrestlers, they weren't bad.
I mean, they were in WCW too as they were the Texas tag team.
No, some bad ones though. Remember Jacob and Eli Blue?
Oh,
They were awful.
that's going 8-ball, but
Really?
yeah, it was them. They were bad.
Yeah, the weird thing is they look better bald
I know.
and older than they did when they were Jacob and Eli Blue.
But when you look at the Horsemen, though, God, any combination, and they just dominated everything. It was amazing. And remember Benoit and Pillman teaming up?
Oh my God!
that was
Fly and Brian. They were the
Horsemen, and
Yeah.
they were part of the Horsemen, but they were like the High Flyers version of the Horsemen. It was great.
Yeah.
God, were they good. And then Benoit and Malenko.
Mm-hmm.
So any combination of the Horsemen, for the most part,
Who was
were very dominating.
what was the tag team Lance Storm was in? There was him and Justin Credible, obviously, but what was the
Him
one
and
when he was-
Candino?
There was that, but what was the one?
Oh,
that
him
was,
and Jericho.
Yeah,
They
that
were
was it.
cool.
Yeah, they really were. They were like the Canadian exchange or whatever. They were awesome.
Yeah, they were a great tag team. The Smoky Mountain.
Really, Lance. Yeah, because Storm was with Justin Credible. He was with Candido. He had a lot of different tag partners.
And he always held up his end of the bargain, I think. Him and Mike Awesome.
Oh yeah, I mean he was just good everywhere. We had the
Yeah.
Impact players too. We had
They were great. I mean, Lance Storm is a phenomenal athlete. What about here's a tag team, the Hart Foundation. I mean, them and the British Bulldogs. Wow, classic
Yeah.
matches.
Brett and Jim.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then the later incarnations of the Hart
Yeah.
Foundation, like
Owen and
Hart
Jim.
Yokozuna. Owen and Bulldog was cool though.
yeah.
They were, they got over. They were good. They had good chemistry.
I don't really think Owen Hart and Jim Neidhart is like the new foundation. Then they were the heels in '94, and it was just this. It really doesn't work.
No, it really didn't. They were like the cousins that never talked.
Yeah,
Reunion.
they always tried to make that work, and it just I mean, it just didn't.
My favorite
work.
Jim Neidhart moment. They let him join DX. China hits him in the balls, and then he just gets beat up.
What about this team? It was from WCW. I don't know if you remember them. Doom.
I remember Doom.
Ron Simmons, Butch Reed. Oh my God.
Do you remember
They just destroyed everybody.
Chronic.
Oh.
Oh, they got jobbed out whenever they came to WWE.
Well, I was listening to Brian Clark, who played Adam Baum's interview, and he said the reason why that all happened was they wanted them to come in. They were injured. Both guys were hurt. They really were trying to get better, like rehab-wise.
Oh,
they
they're
were
justifiably so. I mean, you're going to look small against Kane and The Undertaker.
Well, yeah. But if they were ready to go, like they could actually give you a good match, it would have been awesome. I mean,
they weren't.
That was just, bad booking, and it was just not the right time. And they end up winning the AJPW titles in All Japan, before they retired. So
in the 90s, we had a Harlem Heat.
Oh.
Can't fail to mention them.
Harlem Heat. That was African Americans' version of a great tag team. That was it. I mean, they could go against anybody, and they did.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because WWE at the time had tons of tag teams. I mean, Harlem Heat revolutionized wrestling.
WWFs were always more gimmick tag teams. They were always occupations. You had the farmers, you had the cowboys with the smoking guns, you had the bodybuilders with the body donnas, you had, there were just some really bad
executioners. There's always executioners. Oh, God. But I love this. The white supremacists helped the African American domination group.
Yeah.
Watching that overall. They're coming in. I'm like, why aren't they beating up the Nation of Domination? No, they're going to help them.
You know who was good, though? Right to Censor.
That was incredible.
They finally got a niche. As a tag team, as a stable, they were good. Because it was like The Godfather and was it Bull Buchanan that were the tag champs?
I think.
The Godfather, those two, yeah.
I was just so glad they finally found Steven Richards a gimmick that worked. But then they cut it too short, I thought.
I did too, yeah. I mean, I liked what he was doing. They just never let him win clean. That was my problem.
No. Well, tag teams, you got to talk about the Steiners.
Oh, absolutely. You can't forget about them.
Amazing tag team.
Anywhere they went.
They were like right there with the Road Warriors. They actually beat the Road Warriors in the 80s. I think it was like 89 for the first time. No one ever saw that. They're like, whoa.
Yeah. Back when the Road Warriors finally got paid enough to put somebody over.
Oh, I know. Jeez, remember that? Let me see here. Well, the Young Stallions, Paul Roma, Jim Powers. Enhancement talent, but still good.
I mean, you can't... people give Paul Roma a bad name, but he really doesn't deserve it.
No. Good wrestler. I thought strong hand in the ring. I don't know why the push never came. Well, I mean, he was World Tag Team Champion in WCW a couple times, so guy had something. The Samoans.
Oh, absolutely.
That whole island group
Sika and the other guy.
Sika, Futa, Mamu, everybody. They were just amazing. Tons of incarnations of the Samoans. Tons
over the years.
Yeah, and there's like 30 people in that family, and I don't have time to name all of them, but
let's see.
Everything that came out of there.
Fatu.
Yeah, Fatu.
Rikishi.
Too cool. Too cool, yeah.
Down the road, I'm only bored associating because Rikishi was involved.
Remember them? Oh God. I'm trying to think of some other good tag teams.
In like the early '90s and mid-'90s.
Flying Brian and the Z-Man, that was a good tag team. Didn't last too long, but
no.
Freebirds, they were big, 80s, 90s.
Huge, yeah. Especially in the South.
Yeah, it's a shame they blew their WWE run because one of them did something, and then they no-showed. Yeah, because they were going to be putting that rock and roll wrestling.
Shawn Michaels and Diesel.
Yeah, that was another team.
Because they were another team that they were completely different. They were the Clique, but like whenever they were both like right before Diesel won the World Heavyweight title.
Mm-hmm.
Or the WWF title, they were good. I liked that.
Yeah, I thought they had something there.
And that was kind of how they split up, too, because remember that led to... They started feuding because Michaels kicked them one too many times.
It's interesting. Both of them in the separate organizations had their own groups that were kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty cool. Trying to think who else. Smoking Guns, like you said. They weren't bad.
A lot of people, were surprised when Shawn Michaels became the bigger star out of that. Because, Diesel was world champion first.
Yeah, I don't understand how that kind of happened. I guess the charisma thing, the mic skills.
He carried them for a good year and a half, though. I mean, when he was champ.
Diesel?
Title reign, yeah. They were supposed to have Mabel beat him, though.
Yeah, I wonder why they didn't do that.
Mabel said they changed it at the last second.
I'm trying to think. Here's another... blast from the past tag team. Not a lot of people remember is Greg Valentine and Ric Flair were a tag team.
Yeah, for a very brief period in time.
Yeah. Let's get back to some. We'll start getting the early '90s. There's forgettable tag teams like Orient Express, Barry Horowitz, and the Brooklyn Brawler thrown together.
There was a thing where in wrestling, a lot of times they would just throw the word Express around and then expect you to care. Like you remember the Midnight Express in the late '90s?
Oh yeah, that was bad.
They were so bad.
I don't know why they did that. That's a shame. They ruined that good name.
Yeah.
Early '90s. I'm trying to think of some more tag teams. WWF, I mean, they pretty much had the dominant teams like, the Barbarian and, Haku and the Rockers and everybody that we kind of pretty much talked about.
WCW had Ming and the Barbarian.
Yeah, that was mid-90s.
Horrible
Yeah, that's
there.
forgettable.
Neither one of them
Same
could work
thing.
a lick.
Early 90s WCW, though, the Dangerous Alliance, you had Sabisco and Anderson, or Eaton and Anderson. Amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Great tag team. Shane Douglas and Ricky Steamboat.
Mm-hmm.
Too Cold Scorpio, Marcus Bagwell. I mean, you had some things there. You had some memorable teams.
Now we're getting into the mid-90s. You can't, I mean, Public Enemy,
Oh,
Pitbull 1 and 2.
ECW just bred the tag
Impact
teams.
players, Just Incredible and Lance Storm.
Mhm.
You had the Eliminators. I mean, they were
Always want to see them against Harlem Heat. I thought that'd be a great high flying match.
RVD and Sabu.
Oh
Their
yeah.
match, the Eliminators, was just classic.
FBI. No. Now we're just scraping the bottom.
They served a purpose, though.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they did. They got the fans interested and had a lot of fun with the fans. And
Douglas and Candido, they were good.
that was a good team.
Roadkill and Danny Dillon.
Yeah, you got to mention them. Trying to think some other the Dudleys. That's where they spawned their whole thing.
Yep.
Mid '90s for WWF was kind of floundering. You had like Techno Team 2000. The Heavenly Bodies. A lot of forgettable tag teams.
Yeah, really just...
A lot of
it was a
forgettable.
lot of hot potato. I mean, between the Godwins and the Body Donnas and people of that ilk.
The New Rockers.
Ooh.
I remember that. They brought in the Headhunters for like a minute. They were terrible.
The Headbangers were good, though.
Yeah, Headbangers came out of that and actually did pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
But WCW was above and beyond them. They had,
In tag team wrestling,
I mean,
absolutely.
the Harlem Heat, the Nasty Boys, the Steiners, the Road Warriors, and then they left. Wrath and Mortis.
Really, I mean, in WWF, it seemed like the champion and the team feuding with them were the only two relevant ones at the time.
Yep.
I mean, that's really how it was for quite a long time.
Yeah, to mid to later 90s, you had, the Heart Foundation, all the groups. You had so many groups in WWF. And then you had, Road Warriors or, the Hardys, Edge and Christian.
Hall and Nash.
These people developed. A lot of times, too, like, a lot of the promotions wouldn't have faith in tag teams, so I think they just put two main eventers as a team.
They would try to do that,
yeah,
just to try to drum up some interest. If they weren't in the world title picture, they would do that a lot. Like, WWF was famous for doing that. Triple H and Austin and just...
Benoit and Jericho.
That actually worked. I like that.
That was something special. Kind of fledging into the later 90s. I mean, Kane and Undertaker,
Yeah, I mean, the thing was, they were never together long enough, in my mind, to count as a really good team.
Me neither, yeah.
Kane was actually, he had more tag team partners than anybody I can remember. Taker was champs with Austin and whatnot, but again, they weren't a real team. They were just a marketing idea.
Rock and sock connection, man.
That worked, though, because they stayed together for a while. One that I really liked that didn't last long, two that I really liked. Rated RKO.
Yeah.
But they were both too big of stars to stay together. And what could have been if Edge didn't get injured, Edge and Chris Jericho.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as they announced that they were a team, they came out, I forget who they even beat. They were just some heel jobbers that didn't deserve the belts. They lost the belts in like 7 minutes to Edge and Jericho. I'm like, this is my new team. Edge got hurt like 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
So
isn't that how it always goes?
Jericho and the Big Show was okay, though. It served a purpose.
Yeah, the Big Show got thrown with a lot of tag team partners.
But he was good with Jericho.
Yeah.
That was the Jericho Show. That was the only one that I liked. I hated it when he was with The Miz.
Yeah.
Because I don't like The Miz.
And then there's the Shoguns, him and Billy Gunn. God, they'll just throw anybody with Big Show. Remember the Dungeon of Doom? There was like
Bart
several
Gunn.
tag teams. Oh, God. Poor Bart Gunn. He could not
win the tough man competition.
Yeah, they
after Dr. Death, Steve Williams knocked him out. We never heard from him again.
Well, he went to All Japan, team with Johnny Ace. They were a tag team. I think they won the titles. Yeah. Well,
Ace Crusher.
he's a dynamic dude. Shane Douglas. Early 2000 tag teams. Well, so many in WCW, You just go
Still,
on.
they always had a strong field.
Always did.
Still had Harlem Heat, in their various incarnations. You had
You had the Mama Lukes, which was like an FBI kind of thing.
kind of, yeah.
Which both guys in it end up being in the FBI and WWF.
Johnny
Anyway,
the Bull and
Big Vito.
yeah.
You had the Harris Brothers. You had that.
Harris Brothers got a lot of traction in a lot of places, though.
They did. They were always around.
Seems like they won the belts every now and then. New Church.
New Church, yeah.
They were really good. AMW, Triple X,
yeah.
the Naturals. They kind of took over the mantle from AMW, but that didn't really.
Oh yeah.
They didn't last very long.
Simon and Swinger, Team Canada. Just these are like some TNA tag teams, which I think TNA really helped revive tag team wrestling. I think.
Oh, yeah, it was one of their strengths. That and the X division. I mean, maybe they didn't have the best usage of main eventers, even though they had a lot of talent there, but their tag team divisions were, almost always entertaining.
WWE, man, like right now, dead. There's no such thing as a manager, and there's no such thing as a tag team. They just don't exist.
If you put a gun to my head and said, name the tag team champions, I couldn't do it. I didn't know. Apparently, the same team had been champion for like 8 months. It was Kofi Kingston and R-Truth. I never knew this.
Do you think
they only recently lost?
Do you think the era of the tag team is over?
No. I think you can still, because I mean, why do indie federations still spend time on it?
Oh, yeah, they love it.
Why do ROH and TNA still spend? Well, TNA doesn't spend as much time as it did. I don't think it's over. I think
it's not what it was.
I think you see a lot of wrestlers are more selfish and they want to get a singles career faster.
Yeah,
but they don't realize that being in a tag team can help them do that.
And it seems like compared to TNA, like WWE just throws people in the tag teams.
They don't care at all.
TNA, like, these guys, they'll put like LAX that worked, AJ Styles and Daniels worked, Kaz and Daniels worked,
yeah,
AMW worked, Beer Money worked.
Putting similar people together, Kid Cash and Lance Hoyt, that was good.
Joe and Magnus, I love that. That was such a great random pairing.
We didn't think it would work, and then we watched one match and we said, "Wow, you know what? These guys are actually onto something. They like each other. Like, they can actually." A
refreshing surprise of 2012. But I mean, like a lot of teams kind of split up now. Like Motor City Machine Guns, Team 3D.
Machine Guns. The Young Bucks went to ROH. Not that I missed them.
So they kind of lost a lot of tag team. ECW guys that had teaming,
like Dreamer and
whoever they threw with them.
Sabu.
Yeah, we'll see where tag teams are going. Hopefully, and I pray that I think TNA will do its best to keep it going.
I don't know ROH and all the indies, but I mean, as far as WWE actually ever focusing on them again,
it's going to take a long
with
time.
How bad they designed those belts, I don't think.
I'd say it died in 05, maybe 06, probably 06 after 07.
When was the last M&M tag team title run? 07?
Yeah, I think after 07.
I think after M&M split up, they were pretty much done.
Because they kind of got the Hardys, M&M, Steve Regal, and Taylor. Get some other teams.
2008 or 9, they had Jericho and Edge for a while, and then after that it was dead.
We'll see, but I think... and there's also like international tag teams, like Muda and Shono.
Yeah, there's a lot of international tag teams. Like if you read the IWGP results, they have a lot of different ones. They actually split up one of those. A-Train and Giant Bernard, or he was Giant Bernard.
That was Evan Tonko.
No, then Carl.
Oh, Machine Gun Anderson, yeah.
Yeah, Carl Anderson and A-Train. They were tag team partners for a long time. Okay. He was Giant Bernard.
See, who would know? There's some great international tag teams, and I love when they bring Japanese tag teams in. Or Mexican tag teams. It's just neat to see the styles.
Yeah, it is. I miss when. I wish they had more time. You remember when TNA used to do the X Cup, and you always got to see that. They would have a tag team like thing, and then they would also have the separate cruiserweight competition. That was really good.
Well, NWA would do the Jim Crockett and the Pat O'Connor Memorial Tag Team tournaments. I mean, the Jim Crockett one lasted 2 days. They had, I think, 32 tag teams or something. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we don't see that anymore. It's definitely not as important as it should be in my mind.
I think, I agree. Well, that was fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
We'll see you next time. I'm Chris.
I'm Peck.
All right.